Well, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Kendra here. And yes, before anybody gets started, I know, guys, I took a hiatus. I did. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. I have been having people stop me constantly. When you gonna put out the video? When you gonna put out the video? COVID has really just gotten me. It took me and it just took me just like this. So I am trying to come back 2021. I'm gonna think positive and just pray that, we get out of this. But today, on a more positive note, we're gonna dive into a very, very, very important topic. This is a topic that I have been wanting to get into for a very long time since I started this channel, and that is diabetes. Okay, so today we're gonna cover the two types of diabetes, what they are. And as you know, like I've said before in many of my other videos, my videos are designed to really educate the public so that you can be better advocates for yourself. That's really my whole goal behind what I do, just trying to offer this level of education to the community, especially our community, y'all, so we can get better educated as to what's going on in our body, these things. And I know I don't need to talk about this again for the 50th time, 500, 678 million gazillion times. Y'all subscribe to the channel. It's free. It's free, and you getting great information that can help you. And did I say it was free? It's free. It don't cost you nothing. So just, subscribe to the channel and make sure you spread the information to your family and friends, okay? So without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, so there are two major types of diabetes. And I know you probably ask yourself, do I have this? Or, maybe you had a family member or a friend who had it and you just didn't understand what was going on with them in, as far as this disease is concerned. So there are two types of diabetes. You have type 1 and then you have type 2. Now, I'm going to split the difference between the two types of diabetes. First, we have to understand that diabetes is considered an autoimmune disease. And I think a lot of times it doesn't get broken down that way. I know y'all remember back in the day when your grandmama said, yeah, she got sugar. She got sugar. That was just like, I remember when I was coming up, the first time I heard somebody in my family say they had sugar, I was like, what the heck is sugar? What is sugar? But you'll be surprised how many people still use that term to describe diabetes. I mean, it's still commonly used, especially in the Black community. It's used still a lot to describe diabetes. But basically, it's when you have an increase of sugar flowing within the cells in your vascular system. In type 1 diabetes, what's happening is in the pancreas, there are beta cells. These cells are created in the pancreas and they are responsible for the production of insulin, okay? So insulin is what's needed to lower the sugar. So when your body does not naturally make enough insulin, or it's not making insulin, and I want to be clear on this, because in type 1 diabetes, what's happening is their body is not making any insulin at all. Your natural antibodies, the antibodies which is part of your defense system, is killing your beta cells. Okay, so that's what's happening in type 1 diabetes. It is killing those cells. So when those cells are killed before they're allowed to leave the pancreas, and I think this is where things get real foggy and cloudy. Someone thinks that in order for them to have or to take in a certain amount of sugar, it has to be something that they're eating sweet. That's not necessarily true. There are other foods that you may take in that you will consume. They may not necessarily have a high content of sugar in them, such as a piece of cake or something like a piece of pie or ice cream. It may not have a high content of sugar, but when it breaks down in the system, it will store as a sugar. So for instance, take a baked potato. I would take a baked potato. When a baked potato breaks down and when it stores in your body, or rice, for instance, it's going to store as a sugar. So even though it's not a piece of cake, it's not a piece of cake and it's not ice cream, but it's going to, when it breaks down in the human body, it's going to store as a sugar. So let's say you got type 1 diabetes and you take in a lot of foods that maybe store as sugar. Maybe ice cream and cake is not your thing. So maybe you don't eat a lot of that, you know what I'm saying? But maybe you're taking in a lot of foods that's bad carbohydrates, like those foods that's really high, like bread and rice and, you know, all those whites that I call them the 3 whites: white bread, white rice, white pasta, okay, white potato. When you take those foods in and when they break down in the system, they store as a sugar, okay? So when they store as a sugar, it causes too much sugar to stay within those, in the cells, in the red blood cells. It causes those sugars to stay in those cells way too long, longer than the time frame that it is supposed to stay in there. So when it does that, it increases your glucose levels, your blood sugar levels. That is considered to be some form of diabetes. Now, type 1 diabetes, they're not making any insulin. What happens, you eat, the beta cells release and it goes through another process. I won't get too scientific because I don't want to lose you guys here. It breaks down, it's supposed to be lower once it starts to attach to the liver, and then that process just never happens because those beta cells are attacked by your immune system. They are killed before they even try to leave the pancreas. They are killed, okay? So with that being said, where's that sugar going? That sugar is still there. It's still in your bloodstream. And so what happens is it raises the blood sugar level. And guys, you don't want a lot of sugar in the vascular system. So when you have type 1 diabetes and you're not making that insulin, that's what happens. And it takes you to it causes the body to become too acidic, taking them into a state of diabetic ketoacidosis and so on and so forth, which that causes them to probably pass out and they may have to go to the hospital and so on and so forth. And a lot of times this issue will occur or it will exude itself among children and young adults. Okay? So type 2 is what we consider to be more of metabolic syndrome. So when you look at metabolic syndrome, you have a couple of things that may cause this. Hypertension can cause it. Obesity can cause it. High cholesterol can cause it. And blood sugars. So those are pretty much the things that encompass metabolic syndrome. Okay. So with those things being said, so when you look at metabolic syndrome, those things increase your risk factors for developing heart disease or developing a stroke or developing type 2 diabetes, okay? So with type 2 diabetes, what's going on in the pancreas? So let's go back to the pancreas. I told you in type 1, they're not making any. Where in type 2, they are making, the beta cells are making insulin. But what happens is they just don't make enough. They're not making enough insulin. So when they take in that food that stores highly in sugars, or if they take in something sweet, such as a piece of cake or ice cream, they may make a little bit of insulin, but they're not making enough. If you go to the doctor's office and your doctor did a fasting blood sugar on you, so what you would do, you would not eat anything the night before. Okay, so you eat your regular dinner the night before. You get up that morning, don't eat anything. You go to the doctor's office and the doctor, you say, hey, I want to be checked to see if I have type 2 diabetes. And so the doctor does a fasting blood sugar on you. If that fasting blood sugar, that's a fasting blood sugar. Fasting means you have not eaten since the night before. So you went all night, you slept all night, and then the next morning you got up, you went to the doctor's office. So if your doctor checks your blood sugar, and let's say your blood sugar is greater than 100, it's more than 100, it comes back 115, 120, 200, 150. What that says is you ate something the night before, your body did not make enough insulin, okay? So you did, in the pancreas, you did not put out enough insulin throughout the night, because somebody with normal, who does not have diabetes, their body is going to put out enough insulin And by that morning, their blood sugar would probably be something like 86, maybe 90, 95. That's a normal person. That's a person who does not have diabetes. Their pancreas is working fine. They're putting out enough insulin to cover what they ate. They're good. But someone who's developing type 2 diabetes, or what we call onset diabetes, maybe you got a family history of it, your parents had it, or maybe your grandparents had it. Sometimes it'll skip a generation. Sometimes your parents won't have it, but your grandmother had it, okay? Sometimes this is very common. I've seen this over and over and over and over again in my field. I've seen people come in, their mom and dad didn't have it, but their grandmother had it, or their grandfather had it. And so whenever you eat something and you get up the next day and your sugar is still at high levels, if it's still around 150 or it's hanging out 120, 125, they may need to do what we call a hemoglobin A1C to see if indeed you truly have diabetes. Because more than likely, if your sugar is still high like that morning, you do have diabetes, okay? So the way we check for that, we do a hemoglobin A1C to see how much sugar is holding within those cells within a 3-month span. That tells us a lot. And if that number is greater than 5.7, then we start the treatment plan. Okay? So that's how we diagnose it. That's pretty much, the regimen that is used if you have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 is far more common than type 1. But in the next video, I'm going to dive a little bit more into the treatment plan for type 1 and type 2. This information is so broad, y'all. This is a lot of information. I just skimmed on the top. I just gave you the surface, what I felt like was very important and what I felt like you really, really needed to know. But in the second video, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna talk about the treatment plan, what the options are for type 1, what we use for type 1 and type 2. Y'all got any questions, please ask me in the comment section. Come on, y'all, let's get it pumping. Let's get it pumping. Come on, give me some feedback, give me some information, okay? So guys, I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget, please share these videos with your family and friends. You never know how much of a blessing this stuff may help somebody else, even if it doesn't help you. Pass it on, y'all. Sharing is caring. Pass it on. All right, guys, until the next video, I will see you soon.